Business 2, LauderTrail Strategic Initiative Update. Finally. Hello, Jay. Jay.
Don't talk. You didn't call me back, man.
Yeah.
I did call you. So you can't talk. You texted me back.
No, I called you.
Let me check mine.
Okay, so what we have here today is we're going to have a short presentation by the LauderTrail Advisory Board. This LauderTrail was an idea that had come up when we first convened the new commission, and I'm very, very happy to hear that the community embraced the idea. So now we're going to hear the results of the committee, their suggestions, and how we can implement the LauderTrail idea.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. We're excited to be here. My name is Karen Warfel. I'm the Transportation Planner with the Transportation and Mobility Department. I have with me Jay Shechtman, who is the chair of the LauderTrail Working Group. We're going to give you a little background of what the group has done to date, their vision and mission, proposed routing, some of the collaborations we've been working on, and then in the end, kind of look for direction from you all on how to move forward. So as the mayor mentioned, this was a commission annual action priority in 2018. The actual working group was established last June, and it created a group that had representatives from the 4 commission districts, an at-large member, a representative from the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and from the Planning and Zoning Board. And we have members here. Members, want to raise your hands? These are other members. So then the first meeting was November, so we've really been working for a year on this project. The working group, through the resolution, the purpose that was established by commission was to identify the preferred route for the bike trail, termed LauderTrail, and connections throughout the city. And one of the first main goals of the group when they got together was to really create that cohesive mission and vision for themselves and how they would accomplish it and what it would look like. So I'm just going to read off of this, but the LauderTrail Working Group mission is that they will develop a continuous and comprehensive network of urban trail facilities for practical and recreational use, promoting healthy lifestyle and environmental stewardship through collaboration with city staff and stakeholders. And the vision is that the LauderTrail Working Group will help create an urban shared use trail that will connect neighborhoods and destinations using a route that is safe and enjoyable for visitors. And really, you can see through that it's really useful for all, comfortable for all, and connecting different places in the city was the main goal. So aside from the vision and mission, some of the other progress that has been made to date is identifying kind of the facility types, what those will look like, the different varieties, and what really LauderTrail meant in everybody's mind, where those routes would go, existing routes, really connecting everything. And then what some of the next steps could be, prioritization, and some funding and partnership opportunities. So I'm going to turn it over to Jay, who's really going to get into the details of what the group has worked on.
Thank you, Karen. As Karen mentioned, the vision was to connect neighborhoods and destinations using a route safe and enjoyable for locals and visitors. But of course, in order to do that, we first needed to identify where those destinations are. So what you can see before you on the screen is an example of one of the exercises that we undertook as a group called As the Crow Flies, where we overlaid a white paper over the city of Fort Lauderdale and identified some of the local and regional destinations.
Were the lights on when you did that, Matt? Just like there were a few comments at my pre-agenda meeting last night about the map.
Wow.
This was
So don't listen to this.
Yeah, keep going. We believe in you.
This was just one of the many exercises, and of course,
This is how great things start.
Thank you. I understand.
Back for the napkins. You've heard of
I
that.
appreciate the creativity. Thank you.
so as I was mentioning, this is one of the many exercises that we went through, as well as conversations and discussions. So once we identified the local and regional destinations, we also wanted to take into consideration the all dressed in pink.
Wait a second. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And wearing the helmet too.
Yeah, it is.
Before coming to a conclusion on the route, After we identified the destinations, we also wanted to take into consideration what are the existing facilities that we already have in place, and how can we best utilize those in connection with the new facilities that we would propose in order to best route to those destinations. So what we reviewed was 3.5 miles of existing shared use path, 1.6 miles of buffered bike lane, and 35 miles of bicycle lanes within the city as we did all this. So as we discussed, we looked at what our existing facilities were. We identified the local and regional destinations, and we also took into consideration who owns what piece of land. Is it owned by the county? Is it owned by the city? What is the traffic count of the road? And we tried to target roads that had perhaps a lower traffic count, so it would have less of an impact on cars if we were to make use of space on that road for pedestrians and bicycles. And the map that you have in front of you is basically what ensued. It's a master plan, so to speak, and something that we as a city can aspire to have a totally integrated system with existing and future facilities in the future. And it's a guide that we can reference in the future as we expand the trail from outside of the center, which is where we as a group all agree that this needs to start. You can't just create a system by addressing the edges and creating trails to nowhere. You have to start somewhere. You have to create a heart that pumps blood, so to speak, to a much larger system. So that heart that we have come up with is before you here. This is what we call the core route. The blue line represents sort of like the center branded trail that we hope to have well programmed with art and exhibits and a cultural trail similar to that of the Indiana Cultural Trail, if you're familiar with that. It starts up in the Northwest 15th Avenue in Lauderdale Manors, then moves over to the 13th Street corridor north of Sunrise, and then touches on our Flagler Greenway, which is part of our downtown master plan now for many years. Also very well connected to Holiday Park and the new Panthers training facility. This center of the core route would allow people to expeditiously get to Brightline, the new intermodal and governmental center, Broward County Library, downtown, Los Olas, the Courthouse District, Broward Health, Himarshi, Performing Arts Center, 17th Street, and with the connectivity that you see in the red lines over to the beach. So,
Is this just, this blue line,
It's kind of
is
confusing.
that just like along the train tracks?
a large portion of that is along the train tracks. That's correct.
And is that considered the most scenic view of a trail like this?
It will certainly, with a 10-foot wide, along with landscaping buffer and all the different programming that we hope to accomplish with the Mockingbird Trail group, it can certainly make for a fantastic.
Look at Oakland Park around Dixie. Look what they've done right there by the railroad tracks.
Well, it's intensive investment. That, okay.
You already have a large segment of the Flagler Greenway already that's been incorporated.
And I do want to emphasize that the proposal here is, we have to start with the center somewhere so that we can have people, move through the rest of the system. All the red lines we would hope to also improve with improved infrastructure towards this center. Also, to your point, Mayor, this center line, to your point, this is exactly what it connects. 17 neighborhoods, 26 parks, 11 K through 12 schools, 30% of the city residents, 7 entertainment districts, 30% of the city's jobs, over 30 cultural centers, 14 governmental services, and 3 higher education centers. So not only does it stitch the city together and connect all of these parks, cultural centers, jobs, and the Brightline and the governmental and intermodal center, but it creates safe, expeditious, equitable, and carbon-free transportation throughout our city. It helps reduce vehicular traffic by getting people out of their cars and using safer means of transportation for those who are able to. It gets people outside, which is the reason why most people move here in the first place. And it helps create a sense of place and interconnectedness. In addressing this plan, we also wanted to put before you this prioritization. You can see in yellow, we have phase 1. These are projects which we can begin immediately. Connect the existing Flagler Greenway to the Holiday Park Panther Center. We have along 15th Avenue, Northwest 15th Avenue, plans which we can already begin. The design has already been complete, and they're just waiting for construction dollars on that. And then after that, we would look to expand the Flagler Greenway through phase 1B, which you can see in red, and then move on to complete the rest of this, the rest of this plan. So, next steps. We've done all this work. We've identified a route that we believe best connects all the local and regional destinations. But we need to now move forward and need your help in doing so, hopefully today. We have, as a group, identified 5 recommendations that we would hope that if you agree, we could pass these on to a commission meeting and formally vote on them and get started on this project, which I think we all agree we need badly. 1, we ask that you accept the overall route developed by the LauderTrail Working Group as the agreed upon base map for the first phase of a comprehensive trail master plan. 2, we ask that we move forward to formally combine the city's appointed LauderTrail Working Group with the Friends of the Mockingbird Trail as the official public-private partnership responsible for implementation of the trail master plan. Mockingbird Trail has been visionary and instrumental. The Underline, Highline, and Indianapolis Cultural Trail have all been accomplished as a result of public-private partnerships with 501c3 organizations. We believe that empowering Mockingbird Trail to handle the design, fundraising, outreach efforts, and future route expansion will ensure that this trail is done right.
Where's the Mockingbird Trail overlay here?
We don't have an overlay of the Mockingbird Trail, but as part of this, the Mockingbird Trail group would be taking the route that we approve here today and moving forward on that. Starting off as a collaboration with the LauderTrail Working Group, but as we all know, the LauderTrail Working Group has a 2-year, so if that were not extended, we would look to the Mockingbird Trail group to handle fundraising, design, route expansion proposals to the commission, as well as maintaining the trail in perpetuity, because it's going to also cost money to maintain it.
So the Mockingbird Trail folks I met with a number of months ago, and they had a proposal which incorporated, it was pretty much contained within Flagler Village, because that's their bailiwick, and I told them we were trying to do something more citywide. So it would have probably, it will be instructive at some point to see what their ideas are in terms of integrating their plan with the plan of the board. I assume you've seen that?
Yes, so I totally appreciate that. So we've had multiple meetings with Mockingbird Trail. And we had Terry Frank is here, who heads up the organization.
It's this little segue now, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're also welcome to speak if we could just finish up the presentation.
Yeah, he signed up to speak, so I just.
But I do want to point out that we've had multiple meetings with the Mockingbird Trail group. A number of our members on LauderTrail are also involved with Mockingbird Trail group. Mockingbird Trail has stated that they agree completely that there needs to be a north to south connection, which is where we are prioritizing this, and we'd like to start with phase 1A. And I think that they may suggest some additional routes which are not in our current plan, but as part of the public-private partnership that we'd like for you to push forward, we'd also like to empower Mockingbird Trail group to make suggestions on changing and or modifying or adding to the existing route that we've already put forth.
Great.
So then the third item is we ask that we can appropriate the $5 million outlined in the city's parks bond toward design and implementation of the approved trail. If we get your permission on that, we can move forward with phase 1A in just a matter of months and perhaps even start construction of one of those pieces in 2020. And then two other things, we'd ask that you prioritize the trail project as high priority in the city's list of transportation surtax dollars. The surtax dollars aren't just local, this is a regional project. The surtax dollars are available more quickly and they have the flexibility needed to get a project like this done. And then finally, with the new collaboration with the MPO, we would ask that you also prioritize this with the MPO as one of the projects. The ULI Summit a few weeks ago identified an urban trail system as a top priority for our city. You, the City Commission, identified LauderTrail as a top priority for 2020. We believe that this is our time and opportunity. We've made great headway in conversations with Florida East Coast Railway to move forward and to make something spectacular really happen, and we can hopefully have your support in doing that.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you so much. So, the committee and everybody, on to the next subject. No, we actually have 3 people that signed up to speak, so you want to say something first, or you want to?
Doesn't matter. How are we gonna do it?
All right, so.
I do have something to say, but-
So, Terry, you want to come up? You have a couple minutes?
Take your papers.
Good job.
Good afternoon, I'm Terry Frank. I'm the president of the board of the Friends of the Mockingbird Trail, which is a board that was formed to help implement a trail system within the city of Fort Lauderdale. At the same time, the LauderTrail working group formed, and so we've been working separately but together, and I'm all in favor, and we've been working collaboratively. A lot of the route that they have presented here, even though we didn't overlay it, I think that they used a lot of our information to begin with. So there are a lot of similarities. There are some differences, but there are some similarities. And I think we do believe that the north-south is the most important piece. The one part that Jay didn't mention, which I think is really important, is with the park bond and the improvement of the parks. Really the purpose of the Mockingbird Trail at the end of the day is to connect all the parks together. So we're going to make all these parks, we're going to improve all these parks. We need to be able to get residents together, and that's a really important piece. So, we talk about the holiday park and all the improvements that are going on there with the Panthers. And I was at the YMCA groundbreaking the other day. We need to be able to make sure that our residents are able to get there in a safe way. So that is very, very important. Obviously, we are in favor of combining these two groups. Per the conversation earlier around sunshine laws and everything else, we feel that it's really, really difficult for a group like LauderTrail to go out and create a trail system for a city. That's why, Highline, Underline, Jacksonville just announced they're doing a 31-mile trail around their city that's being done by a private, public task force. So we believe that in order to get this completed and moving, that's really important, that over a period of time we transition the LauderTrail group over to the Mockingbird Trail group, and we need to work with the city on how we do that. We need to work with this group on how we do that. But we believe that's a great path forward to allow this to move forward in a very efficient, in an efficient way.
All right, great, thank you. Let me ask you a question, if I may.
Yes.
Let's see. The Mockingbird Trail, see, the thing is, in combining these efforts, one of the key factors in this is going to be wayfinding signage, okay? Because we don't want people getting lost, in this spider web of trails and, pathways. So, are you folks taking that into consideration as we start to design this? Because clearly, this spine that's been recommended here has spokes. And I guess that's the ultimate goal here, is to create this trail in that fashion. I originally thought it was going to be one big loop around the city, but obviously the committee saw something different.
Can I speak to that real quick? So, and this is from the Mockingbird Trail perspective, and I think, along with the LauderTrail perspective, if you look at most trails, it is a loop.
Right.
But if you look at this, if you look at the city doesn't work in a loop. It's not a real sense of, it's not a heart of the city. That's a starting point for the city. I believe that happens to be, to some extent, Brightline, and that whole transportation system. But there's no real, connect, just a route that you're going to be able to take around that connects all the parks together. So we do call it spider web. That was a great pickup. And it may or may not be the most efficient way of doing a trail. But I'm not sure. We call them nodes. We've identified different nodes. So Holiday Park is a node. The YMCA is a node. The Culture Center is a node, and those are the connecting points that we've identified.
So you said all of the parks, right?
Well, I don't know. We can connect all the
No,
parks
but
with the
that's what
city.
you said,
but-
so I'm just asking.
No, no, but I'm talking. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that's. But
Then
a
you
lot of-
identified.
We've identified
Part of
what
park,
we
you
think.
identified-
We've identified what we feel.
But hold on a second. Then you identified Holiday Park and YMCA, which we haven't even built yet. But as the spider develops, there are other cultural pieces, both north, east, south, and north, we think we got covered because of the system, which I agreed to. And you look at the proposed spider line, the other red one, I think it's gonna take all the other stuff into consideration. I'm not knocking what you're saying, but when you said all, I was very satisfied, but then I wanted a clarification. It won't be all, just be what we identify as those nodes.
It will be what we identify as those nodes. Yes. So as those nodes, and that is something that we still need to. I think we've done a first draft of that, and some of the plans that you saw as it relates to the Mockingbird Trail, and some of the commissions have seen. I don't think we've had a chance to present to you yet, but that's important. That public input is really important. But what we really want to do, there's a lot of talk about trails. I mean, outside of both these groups.
That's what I was going to ask you next, because there was another person working on the trail.
Yes, there's another person that's working on a trail. There's a lot of these transportation projects that are happening. There's a lot of public street improvement projects that are happening. What we want to do is put it into one project. So you don't have the Mockingbird Trail, the LauderTrail, the Flagler Greenway, I think the Dillard project that you're referring to. We want to incorporate it into one project so that we can go out and market it. We can develop tourism around it.
So all
we
those
can collaborate.
people talking, or
We're starting to talk. Yes, we haven't talked to Dillard yet.
But what about before Dillard? Was there another person, Scott Strawberry's, doing something?
We've been trying to reach out to Scott.
I'm just saying, because I keep hearing all this. I don't know,
we've been-
because
no,
it's not
we-
my deal.
We've been
What?
trying to reach out to Scott, to talk to him, to include him as part of the conversation. But it's our goal to really ultimately bring that all into one system.
So the spider can come
So
together.
the spider comes together, that we don't have all these different trails. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, I use this as an example, Las Olas, the street, there's a node, I would say that is, for example, Tunnel Park, ultimately when that's built, is a node. What happens to Las Olas is different, but that's how you get to, and there's a whole different working group, but how you get there, that Tunnel Park is that, you get to Tunnel Park, and that's the key. So there can be other connectors. Not everything has to connect to Mockingbird Trail. There could be other connectors. There can be other or LauderTrail. There just doesn't have to be. Other connectors will develop that don't have to be part of the system.
Okay.
But
Let's start it out. We're
we'll
doing
start it out.
blue,
Yes. But it
then
is
spider.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you.
Thank you.
April?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am in support of this combination of Mockingbird Trail and LauderTrail. I know you're not used to me coming saying I'm in support of something.
Great.
Thank you for the opportunity. I actually am one of the founding board members of Mockingbird Trail. I know we've met, and we're hoping to meet Commissioner McKenzie in your district to talk about some of the things that we can all do together. But we're really excited. The LauderTrail group should be commended for the amount of work that they've accomplished in 1 year, and that they've allowed us the opportunity to come and discuss our ideas and all the different things that we wanted to do. And Mockingbird Trail started as a community project. It really started as a community project, and people coming together and actually putting pen to paper. And it's interesting that then LauderTrail was created as a group of people representing the community, and it's true. What everyone drew out as that map was the same thing that the community that came through LauderTrail wanted to do. So we're excited for this opportunity to work together. As Terry mentioned, there's a lot of things we feel we can do, like the Indiana Cultural Trail and some of these other groups, the High Line, that you couldn't necessarily do through a working group, that we as a public-private partnership can accomplish. And we're ready to work. We're ready to do that signage, that way crossing, that safety, not just safety of pavement on the ground, but safety of lighting and how to direct people and keep our community active. The beach, is phenomenal with its sidewalk. Riverwalk is phenomenal with its sidewalk. Those are safe places for people to travel and be, but the rest of the community needs that connectivity. And as Terry said, it's those nodes. It's bringing people to different points in our community to do it together. So we're excited to work together, and we started Mockingbird Trail. I think this is an important piece that I just want to leave you with. We started Mockingbird Trail as the first cultural arts trail in the state of Florida. And I think that's an important piece, and Jay made reference to that, that it's not just improving the street or is it nice to walk along the railway, but it's a cultural arts trail with public art programming and activity. So it combines all the aspects of our community that we're really proud of. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you. Mike Albetta?
Sure. Good job. Yeah.
Make this, yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, speaking on behalf of District 2, but also various other districts that this touches. So, just a very fast email that was sent to me is, to your knowledge, is there any plans for develop a park along the east side of the road tracks along Flagler Drive? I'm interested in establishing an urban art garden walking trail along the tracks spanning from Andrews Avenue to Northeast 7th Street up to 13th Street. It'd be potentially a span all the way through Middle River Terrace, even all the way up to Oakland Park. I'm thinking a dog-friendly urban walkway and bike path with art sculptures and native wildflowers, plants along the east side of the tracks west of Flagler Drive. Do you think of the High Line in New York City, but on the ground? So I contacted this guy and I put everybody together, and I connected all the dots, Hal Barnes and Christine Fanchi and Karen, and these civic associations, it went wild. They didn't know that this was there. And it just blew up and it went crazy and it went I want to volunteer, I want to come out, I want to help, I want to do this, I want to do that. They think this is the best thing since sliced bread. And I'm definitely speaking in favor of it. And I definitely am asking the commission, and you, Mr. Mayor, is to push forward with this because I think it would enhance District 3, District 2, District 4, whatever it may be, just for green, because with all the development that's happening, this is an answer to the problem that's happening. So this is, Mr. Mayor, I'm saying as the representative of District 2 of Councilors Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations, I am definitely in favor of this project here, and I think it would be a huge asset and be definitely another star in your lapel, so and say, to each and every one of us. Each and every one. And each and every one. You can okay. To each and everybody, you put a great star in your lapel.
I have a lot of room.
Well, thank you very much for the time. Be well. Take care.
All right, great. So where's the next steps? Mr. Larder?
I think our next steps tonight or today is if you're in agreement with those 5 positions that were put forward today, if we can get sort of general agreement on that, then I think the rest sort of shakes out between the Mockingbird Trail and the staff level combination of both those working groups. And as Jay said, I think there's opportunities to potentially move forward with a couple of phases quickly.
Yeah, so said simply, accept the route that we presented to you, move forward with a formal agreement between the city and Mockingbird Trail to combine LauderTrail with Mockingbird Trail in a public-private partnership. Appropriate the $5 million from the Parks Bond to begin design and implementation of the first phase. Prioritize the project as high priority in the city's list for surtax dollars from the new penny tax, and prioritize with the MPO, the new MPO collaboration as a priority project.
Well, do we know, let's just pick that number. I don't know if it's a real number, 5 million. Do we know what 5 million buys us? We don't know that yet.
No.
But it hasn't been designed. I've heard just anecdotally that we think that at least this first phase, 1A and 1B likely has the capacity within the $5 million. Well, obviously, as we hone in that dollar figure with design and all, allocation of right-of-way, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the thing is, though,
Get a
all
better
right,
number.
but the thing is, we don't want to create a trail that is not connected.
Correct.
So,
Correct. I think, though, to Jay's point, I think, almost like if the wave had gone forward, you had to start somewhere to be able to to connect it to the beach, you
We
have to
have to
connect it to
start
downtown. You have to
somewhere,
start somewhere.
But we can't create a trail for 1 mile and then the next mile is 2 miles away. You know, it doesn't, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Well, we would love to be able to do the entire trail all at once.
So I don't know what 5 million buys us. Maybe it buys us the whole trail.
No, it certainly will not buy us the whole trail. This will be an expensive project to complete all of this. We don't have, yes, Terry?
I have to say, I mean, this is going to be a very expensive, we don't know the dot. What we would like to do in some ways is design, we need to design the trail and then come back and say, hey, this is going to be, this is really phase 1, but here's the entire thing. And then we can, as far as, we can implement, we can change it as we go on. But I think we need to show, that entire thing. So we have an idea of phase 1, then phase 2, then phase 3, then phase 4.
But knowing that this is gonna, knowing that this is,
A lot of these projects happen, like the High Line, Underline, they happen on railroads, abandoned railroads. We don't have the ability to do that. This is going to be, a little bit harder in terms of the fact that we're working on street level. So we're gonna have to phase it. But I think that we need to come and say, hey, here's the phases, and come back with the overall, a little bit more of a better plan.
Well, the underline is at street level.
Well, the underline's underneath the.
I know where it
Metro
is.
yeah.
But there's land underneath the Metro Rail. It's not, the Metro for the most part doesn't go over the street. It goes over sidewalks that are, there's a buffer there.
But you're not asking us to buy land.
No.
no, so the underline just, is a completely different project, and we can't compare one to the other, but that is a $150 to $200 million project that they've raised dollars with. Now, we're asking for is to appropriate the $5 million sort of as seed money so we can begin design and perhaps implementation of the phases 1A to make a spectacular showpiece that we can present to the community to gauge and continue to get public input and buy-in. But also one of the 5 things that we're asking for you to move forward on today is to prioritize this as a project on the surtax dollars so that those additional dollars are available to us when we're ready for those.
Okay. Could I say something? Is that okay? Can you go back to the route, the map? Yep. So the phases. One of the reasons why we picked that phase 1A and 1B is because it's going to connect some major sections of bike lanes already. You have on 13 and the Flagler Greenway. And so you'd actually be able to ride for several miles on the Mockingbird Trail in phase 1. And so I think those neighborhoods could really get an idea, and people passing it could really get an idea of like, wow, this is amazing. I want this where I live. And so then when we start adding these new phases to it, people have an idea of what it looks like already. You'd have this continuous route already, even though it's a short distance, you'd have of what it would look like already.
So exactly, I think that we felt that this route connected existing things, so we got a larger bang for our buck immediately, and it was very useful as transit, not just for riding to the beach and back. And that's kind of why we went away from a loop type model to this. We felt it connected the most people, the most efficient.
So, and just to add on this, so a core part of this is using the FEC right of way, right, along the...
Part of it, yeah.
Okay, a chunk of this. So, critical to this whole piece, especially north-south, is getting FEC, Brightline, Grupo Mexico supportive of this to basically lease their portion of their right-of-way to us. So we've been working on that. Grupo Mexico, FEC, Brightline, they're desirous of having greater fidelity around what specifically would the route look like. Is the city commission fully supportive of this, and so forth. So what they're asking for will help us get back to FEC, Grupo Mexico, and Brightline and say their support here specifically kind of where the spider lives and where the spider goes, and here's kind of where we're looking now. Will you, Grupo Mexico, FEC, be willing to kind of partner with us?
Okay. So to answer my question then, what's the next step?
So I think Alan and I need to spend some time together figuring out how the
Are you getting a headache?
how the
I'm
emergency
hearing all this stuff. It's the first I hear it. We're gonna have to figure out how to do this.
how to accomplish
All right,
the merging
so-
of a couple
I
of
think
things.
I think we all agree in concept.
think you're right.
I think the original question about, what are we getting? What is the cost? We don't know the cost.
Yes, no.
And I think that's going to be a big factor in us being able to even vote on it.
Well, we're gonna have to implement it in phases, there's no doubt about that.
Right, I get
So
that.
that's what you said, but we do need to know what this is gonna cost, and if it's a 20-year timeline, we need to know that. If it's a
Yeah.
10-year timeline, we need to know that, so if it's a 5-year, if we can do it all in 5 years or whatever, we can certainly make application with the MPO, and we can certainly make application with the county for the surtax money. But we need to know what the cost is, and we need to know, and that's, I guess, the design is gonna be.
Correct. And that's what we'll use the $5 million for. If there's enough funds left over after the design to move towards and make, to build priority 1A, then we'll do that. But we'd like to use that $5 million as seed money to get going on design and figure out what that cost is.
Can we use that park bond money?
That's my next question.
That's one of the issues we have to look at.
I got 3 questions. How much can we use the park bond? And we said in the surtax debacle, if you would, and we don't control our percentage of the penny, but they told us that we had to have shovel-ready projects, to get that portion of that penny.
Right.
I think we dumped our projects in that hopper, if I'm correct. Then what we're using in your analogy today, that we're going to use a part of that penny. Can we get that penny?
Well, once we have the design done,
But-
then it becomes shovel ready.
No, you can, there is planning and design money available through
Oh, there are
surtax.
monies for that?
Shovel-ready really means anything from just the community and the commission wants it. Like it's vetted through the community to
Okay,
ready for
good.
construction. So we do have a variety of ready for design, ready for construction projects that are in the hopper, but they are going to be ranked against all of the other county projects. So we don't know how they're gonna shake out. That'll be in
All
March
right, well,
when
we can
kinda
lobby for
find
this,
out.
okay.
Karen, I
All
have a
right.
question. What's the status of the grant, with the Flagler grant, is that
The
moving
Made to
along?
Move?
The
Yes.
Made to Move grant?
So we have received a grant through Unilever, Degree, deodorant, through Made to Move.
Made to Move Dryly.
Made to Move. So it is, we have that existing 2-block section of the Flagler Greenway.
Right.
Which if you ever ride it, you can't get off except for Andrews Third and Sunrise. So all the businesses and what's going on in the Mass District, people can't get to and from, they're driving through the grass.
So
So it's
how
really
much
to
money is that?
connect, it's $100,000.
$100,000.
It's to create the connections of the existing Flagler Greenway to the Mass District.
Right.
And there's some potential to do some creative branding with, if we get the direction to go forward with Mockingbird Trail, to really start using that wayfinding theory into the Mass District.
Well, I would
as
encourage
well.
you to continue your dialogue with the Mockingbird group and see how you can mesh, the concepts, and then in the meantime, we'll hear from our city attorney about the viability of the park bond money that can be used for design.
Merging.
Yeah.
With the group.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna keep you busy.
All right, very good. Well,
Thank you, this is great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work. Thank you for the work.
It's under there, but I will be right back.
Thank you.
Karen, when is
We
the
have
story?
giveaways.
The dream come true. Yes, please.
New Year, okay, good.
Did she sign up? Did you sign up?
No, I didn't sign up. I should have signed up.
Yeah, she was part of that Dillon piece of that, but it just really concluded.
Yeah,
so-
okay, I didn't know you wanted to
Good
speak,
stuff.
I'm sorry.
Got some printed
You didn't sign up.
versions for you.
Okay. Go ahead, go ahead.
Tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm,
Hold on, stay Just one second.
One last person from the.
Mike.
Yeah.
Please identify
Stay
yourself.
one second.
You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
okay, I'm Odessa Scribbles Bennett, and I'm the vice president with the Old Dillard Foundation with Patricia West, who's our president. And we've been talking with Scott Strawbridge in reference to the Old Dillard Trail. So I don't know what the problem was getting in touch with him because I see him all the time. And we're representing the Old Dillard Trail, which is very similar to everything that we've heard here. But to me, it just sounds like everything stops at the tracks. And you know.
Not at all.
But actually,
Some of it-
actually, we're gonna start at the tracks.
Okay.
And so we can put it together, because when you look at the big blue line, you guys don't mind. Especially where the phase one is. We've already started with that street,
Okay.
bicycle lanes and striping. We started with some of our
You can
pilot
have
grants.
that. You can have that.
So now we're doing is connecting to those destinations, and then the spider's gonna come into play. That's why I wanna make sure that you guys are part of the spider
Right.
part and get you tied in. 'Cause both groups talked about your
The same
existing.
thing.
It's just that I guess people didn't know who, what, when, and where. So today now creates that whole community piece. Because I really don't want to spearhead it. I'd rather you all, Karen knows how it works.
Oh, come on, Commissioner, you can spearhead it.
No, not me. But I'll give my input, and it's the two great groups. And I heard a lot of misinformation prior to you coming to me yesterday.
Okay.
And today, you're in a good place
Very good place.
to join with this group, because Jay's been on my case for
I like the
a long
idea, I
time.
like the idea of the Dillard Historic Trail. I didn't know there
And,
was a trail. I know there's a museum, I know there's a school, but I didn't know there was a trail.
So you have more representation and you can move forward. So I don't think you have to really convince this group or even us. Right. Just be a part of what Karen, Mockingbird, and LauderTrail.
Right.
Very good.
So my next step, I guess, would be to get with them.
Get in touch with Karen.
Your contact info.
You're good now, trust me.
Okay,
Very
very
good.
good.
And then you can help Scott be part of this too.
Absolutely.
Scott's gonna be a big challenge, but he got you in the right place.
All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank y'all.
You guys have been so great.
Ingrid.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Shake your hand, but,
Yeah, this one's.